Was that another one that we got right the first time?
I think so.
Hell yeah. Okay.
It's like we're podcasters.
It's like we've done this for over a year. We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah, progress. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Geek Reloading podcast. I'm your host, Adam, and as always, my co-host, Josh.
Hello.
And this one, we decided to go and we decided to dive into pretty much modern gaming as well as a little bit older gaming and go with our top 15 most iconic characters in gaming. Now, I said modern gaming originally, but then it came into like just all of gaming, which I think is a better idea anyway. And this one, Josh, what's special about this one? We actually listed it in order.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I think we're might be missing stuff, but I think this is a damn good list. And
this is a pretty solid list, I think.
I think, you know, the top, maybe the top four are the most important, but, you know, I think everyone else definitely has something to say.
Man, dude, you really deflated this list. You're like, you know, it's okay. I think
it's okay.
All right.
It's not a good list.
Top four, not top seven.
I think it's because of the first one, like that we're going to talk about. Let's just jump into it, and then I can explain it. So it's the top 15. So we're starting with 15. So we're starting with the lowest and going from there. And the last one we have on here is Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher series.
Now, explain why you don't feel like he should be number 15.
Because it's one of those things where I think it is too new to really be like. Granted, he's an amazing character. He's got his own TV show. Like, I mean, there is a lot going on with Geralt, and I love Geralt. Don't get me wrong, I do. But I mean, against some of these others, he's not iconic. Like, against a lot of these others, he's not iconic. Not everyone would recognize Geralt, but some of these others, no questions.
You know what, though? Everyone would recognize Henry Cavill, and Henry Cavill is Geralt.
That's true.
So there. So there.
But I don't want to give away some of the last stuff, but there's plenty of other people. Anyways, so...
Okay, fair.
That's where I'm coming from, is I think these... I think the first few are kind of... They are definitely noticeable. They are definitely epic characters, and definitely a lot of the people that know them love them. However, they're not. I don't know about the iconic. But I couldn't come up with 15. I couldn't even get close to 15.
We between us we got to 15. Now
exactly.
The next one, I think that the reason why you don't understand is because you haven't picked up a damn PlayStation in
I know
20 years. So the next one is Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series, which I feel like that is not... I think universally, a lot of people recognize who Nathan Drake is and also are a fan of him in comparison to Josh, who has not played any of the Uncharted games ever. Now,
granted, I know Nathan Drake quite well from two different sources. He's a pretty proper character that comes up in Girlfriend Reviews on YouTube. And your artwork. So I know who he is, and I know, you know. But again, he's also the male Lara Croft.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that iconic when he can be described as a gender bent of another character?
I feel like yes, because we have other ones on this list that you could say it's the male or female version or just a second-rate version of insert person.
We need to argue that. We need to bring that out. So we'll get to that point.
Okay. Anyway, the next one you obviously I think agree with because you're an Xbox guy.
Well, I think this is also something that kind of comes to like Xbox when it came out. The first Xbox coming out, it kind of tried to build some genres and some like characters and storylines from the ground up, which was really quite epic at the time because not a lot of people were trying to really create some solid characters. Yeah. And Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War was just recognizable. He's noticeable. He's definitely a character of his own. And he was a strong character right from the get-go.
I think that also Gears of War on the 360, when it came out, it was like the showstopper for graphical detail as well. Do you remember, like, it became like, it was on all the posters, all the promos, everything. Gears of War became like an Xbox staple, the same way that Uncharted became a staple for PS3 and PS4.
Exactly. And I think that is why it's one of those things that he should be on here, because his game line is a staple for... And granted, maybe we should replace him with Coltrane, because... No. I agree, but Coltrane.
I do love Coltrane. I'll give you that.
Everyone should.
Okay, so the next one is I think most people recognize because he was in one of the largest games in the franchise, and it's Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil 2, 4, 6.
I agree with you. I was kind of thinking, well, what about like the original Resident Evils? But
like Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine?
Chris Redfield, unless he's punching a boulder, like, we don't care about him. And Jill, like, she's gone through a lot of different iterations at this point, so she's not really the person to go with anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I think, especially with Resident Evil 4 coming out and Leon being by far the center of attention of everything and kind of carrying everything on his own, because that didn't really happen in that game line.
Yeah.
He was by himself. That was him. That was it.
Yeah, I think that also it was that really amazing time in both generations, the PS1 and the PS2/GameCube, whatever, where the games that were released, Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4, it was right when it was in the swing of things, and you were able to like the game systems were really hot. It wasn't the beginning of the generation where nobody can get them or there's only a few games. It was like, damn, this is like the peak level. This is the biggest point in this generation, and then these games come out, so I think you have the most eyes on them too, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. And like, I would definitely say Resident Evil 2 fixed a lot of the problems with Resident Evil 1.
Yeah.
But it was still more of what we loved. So
yeah.
I mean, and so I could definitely see him standing out because of that. And then 4 kind of just cemented him in there.
I agree with that.
And so the next one, I don't know about. It's Tom Nook from Animal Crossing.
I think it totally makes sense.
I can understand a little bit because he is connected through all of them, but also, like, is this a big thing just because Animal Crossing is a big thing now? Like, that's kind of what I'm coming at.
Okay, I can see that to an extent.
A lot of these other people, like, they're just kind of staples of the game community. Like a lot. There's a couple of these that have like memes attached to them, and I guess Tom Nook has some. I don't know. I'm just kind of. I'm
glad you're excited for the top 5 at least.
I think the like for the top 10, I think is where I'm gonna start coming out and stop complaining like a whiny little bitch.
See, and what's funny is that, so Tom Nook was 11, and I think that he fits because he became kind of a Nintendo darling as well with Animal Crossing, because your actual villager, it will vary widely what they're going to look like. And so you had to have like staple characters. And I would love to say KK is as popular as Tom Nook, but you only see KK every once in a while. He only made appearances here and there in the first few games, you know, and so only like the actual like, yeah, with the mainstay on Animal Crossing throughout the years until his, nephews? Is that what it is? Nephews took over? Yeah. It was Tom Nook.
But he was still in there. Like, the nephews were running the shop, but he was running the, you know, the mortgage.
The building
center.
And the mortgage. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
But I mean, he's the only one that is from the beginning always been there. And that is something to say. I mean, because you're right, KK is not always there. I mean, so he's not very much liked, but I can understand. He is the consistent character. So.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So
all right.
like the next one, Josh said that this deserves being 10, and I almost contest that maybe not, because he just barely had like a big reprisal in the last few years. But that's a Crash Bandicoot from the PS1, PS2, Xbox, all sorts of areas.
The thing I feel Crash needs to be on here is because back in the day when PlayStation was trying to become, Nintendo, I mean, really, let's call a spade.
Yeah, call it like it is. When
they were trying to become Sega or Nintendo and trying to become a mainstay in the home gaming, they had their mascot, and that mascot was Crash Bandicoot. And he was cool, and he was fun, and he was hip and with it, and bright colored, and he was a mascot.
That is true. I'll give you that wholeheartedly. I feel like he was the Sonic. I mean, everyone, we'll get to him. He's on the list too, but he was like, they needed a catalyst to separate themselves from Nintendo, and they needed an icon or a mascot. And so for that reason, I'll agree with 10, even though he fell by the wayside. By PlayStation 2 and 3, you had, like Little Big Planet, you had Sackboy in PlayStation 3. PS4, you didn't have anybody really. I mean, so it's kind of like a okay reaction.
Like I'm saying, he was iconic for the time. And granted, they've got a couple more Crash Bandicoots coming out now. I guess there was one last year, but
yeah.
And granted, like it's not like something I'm really like super into, but he definitely was one of those characters that was recognizable for the time.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
All right, so number 9 is the female version of Nathan Drake.
Oh man, that's doing her dirty. You can't call her that.
Lara Croft, and like I loved Lara Croft way back in the day, but Lara Croft as like what she is now is amazing. Like, yeah, I love the reboot of this, and she is such a strong, awesome character, and she was built off of Indiana Jones, and I mean, there's not a lot of more iconic movie characters than Indiana Jones, and Lara Croft was a perfect analog for him in the digital age. Like, yeah, and I just love that because she is very much what he is for movies, and I love it.
Yeah, I really I like Lara Croft and Nathan Drake for both the same reason. You get to be the Indiana Jones adventure character. Lara Croft did it first, and I feel like she had the perfect blend of supernatural versus real world scenario stuff that comes up. Like everything is like 85% of it is regular run and gun with regular ass enemies, and then you have that 15% of supernatural that comes out in each game that makes it interesting to play.
Yeah, because it gives you just a little bit of, wait a minute, that's not like this game that is so realistic, like going through like ruins and like doing a little bit of parkour and all that, and running and gunning like these animals or bad guys, whatever. But then like there's just like a very like small hint of, no, that's not real. Like that's, what the hell? And I think like going back, like Indiana Jones had that, and that was kind of one of those things that made it stand out, is it wasn't just normal. Yeah, there was some crazy shit happening, and I just great. Should definitely be on here.
She was a good one. So this one, I must confess, I never got into these games too much. But I think that just proves that she deserves to be on this list, because even though I haven't played most of her games, I think she still is iconic enough to earn number 8. And number 8 is Samus.
And I'm gonna say, like, and I probably will feel bad about this, but I think Samus is only on here and should be on here because of being in the situation for so long. Nintendo, one of the first Nintendo games way back in the 80s, like she's just always been there. And so it's kind of built in with that time. Not necessarily her. I mean, granted, space pirate, like, not pirate, but, a space marine fighting, yeah, that's pretty cool, but I think it's more of her time.
Yeah, I think that it was crazy awesome in the Nintendo age, her doing that. I think that the Metroidvania gameplay and the fact that she was part of that uprising as well made it so then she kind of became a staple. And then once they took her as a Nintendo classic character in 64 and put her into Smash, I think that like locked her in for the rest of the time, because after that in GameCube you had the first person version, the Metroid Prime games, and then she just kept on coming back. I feel like that's what really made her stick around.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, because I mean there wasn't enough. I mean, even though Super Metroid is one of my favorite games, it's still like there's a lot to say about what it is now. So yeah, and hopefully we're gonna be getting some more, Metroid Prime. So I hope it works out. Those were the ones that I liked the most. I really hope that they do a full Metroid Prime release, like of all of them, because I'd like to get back and actually get into those. So,
yeah, I agree. See. Like those ones they really were. They were my favorite ones, I think.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Now, the next one is I put this on here and I could make this argument, but I thought you should have, so I don't know. We've kind of argued about this a little bit, and that's Kratos from God of War.
I feel like he deserves to be on here. I'm surprised you put him so high. He's number 7.
Like, he's big, and like I was explaining to Mindy, like one of the reasons why I think he should actually be on here is, do you remember when? Oh, I can't even remember the stupid fighting game that did it. Like they had
PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale.
No. Like the games one that was across all platforms, and each platform had a specific character for that.
Soul Calibur. And you had like Link in the GameCube, I think. GameCube version was Link.
Yeah.
Heihachi was PS2. And then Xbox was Spawn.
And then the next generation, they had Kratos as the PlayStation character. And I thought,
did they have Kratos?
Yeah, they did. And that was the one thing that made me go, oh yeah, of course. Like he is. And then when they rebooted with the new God of War, which is amazing, and they literally took him out of everything that he was normally in. He had a family. He was in a whole different like mythology. Like it was crazy, but he was the character that carried it and made it amazing. So I'm a big advocate of Kratos being this high on this list.
Wow. Okay, well I appreciate that. I think that Kratos has also had one of the best character developments over the generations, because when you played him in the first few, he was just a roided out angry bro. Well,
but it was a beat 'em up. I mean, it was definitely a different game than what we have now. And yeah, he has like not only has his character grown, but like what he is accompanying. Like, dude, give your son a hug. Like when you start getting connected to a freaking roided out like beat 'em up character, that's gotta say something.
That is true. That is true.
Honestly, I would say I could make the argument to switch him with number 5.
Wow. Okay. Well, we've already solidified it, so let's not go down that road.
All right.
But I appreciate, though, because you brought up a lot of good points that I didn't think about. That I was like, I don't know why he's putting him so high, but that makes sense. Okay.
I just think he's a badass, and I appreciate him.
So in the last 6, I think you and me agree pretty much across the board, right?
Except for putting Kratos higher, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So we're in our top 6 now, and number 6 is Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VII Remake, all those Final Fantasies, all the extra beat 'em up games.
Pretty much Final Fantasy. Like, if nothing else, his sword. Like,
oh yeah,
like you should know his sword and his hair. But I mean, Cloud was a strong character that was really confusing. Like, if you played through 7 and really got into the storyline with Cloud, it's really interesting to see him for what he is. And then you have Advent Children, which was such a great movie to kind of solidify that story and kind of make a little bit more of that understanding happen. I love that. And he was big. I mean, he's been around since, the beginning of the PlayStation.
Yeah, that is true. I think that also he was part of iconic gaming in the PlayStation realm, and that, like, the PlayStation itself, he was one of the big poster child style things, like, that was on across all the ads and everything. And then it carried all the way through the PS2 era, where he didn't really show up in anything. He showed up in a few beat 'em up games as like a character, but there wasn't anything really driving Cloud as a character in the PS2 era. But then PS3, you suddenly had, like you said, Advent Children and all that stuff come out. You had the teaser for what would eventually become Final Fantasy VII Remake and all sorts of shit. So I mean, but he's a character, like a fan darling. Everybody loves Cloud because of what they remember, like a nostalgia trip, all that kind of shit.
Well, and also, like, you got to say a lot about the Final Fantasy VII. The game itself was kind of a new reimagining of a lot of those JRPGs that really opened up the doors for a lot of other games. And so 7 was kind of that new start to the the Japanese role-playing games, like we've seen from Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior and all that. But it was like the new updated version of that. And so it started all that. And of course, he's going to be kind of stuck in the middle of that because he was the main character.
Yeah, of course. All right, man, you got number 5.
Okay, so number 5, like, as much as I want him on this list, I think this is too high for him. I could easily switch him and Kratos. And number 5 is Link from Legend of Zelda.
Okay, so explain to me why, because I'm gonna have a rebuttal for this.
Okay, so Link is kind of built to be the everyman. He's like, even in the newest iteration into Breath of the Wild, like, he doesn't have a voice like Zelda does. He doesn't have, like, he is supposed to be kind of an avatar for the player. He's more of just the connection. Granted, he is the legendary swordsman and all this other lore in the game, but he is kind of built to be the swinging sword of the player. Like, he's not a lot of a character himself. Granted, in Breath of the Wild, they kind of started working on making him a little bit more expressive, and he actually, like, he has to be talking in the game, despite no one really, like, he doesn't have a voice, he doesn't have dialogue that he actually says. It just mimes that he's talking, and people respond to it.
Sure.
So he's kind of a non-character. I mean, there are plenty of Zelda games where he literally does not talk at all, like, doesn't even mind talking. So yeah, I think that
exact thing you just said is the reason why he deserves to be so high. We've had a Legend of Zelda game every single Nintendo generation.
So you're gonna play this game of the same thing with Samus, is because he's been around for so long, he deserves to be iconic.
I think that the fact that almost all of the games that they have come out with for him, the main ones, I mean, like, I'm talking, Legend of Zelda on Super Nintendo, whatever that was called. Then you had Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, you had Twilight Princess, then you had Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild. All those.
How dare you, sir?
What?
How dare you forget A Link to the Past, which is
A Link to the Past.
The second best Zelda game ever.
Is it? Because I don't remember it.
Now we got to fight.
Now we've got a fight going on. Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, there was a good game in every single generation, on top of the fact that they had them on handhelds as well. I think for those reasons, there was a lot going on for it.
Okay. Another thing I got to put in here, I did forget, he did have a voice, and it was a freaking 80s cartoon.
That's true.
Like, he did have a voice, and it was so excuse me, princess. Oh man.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch those now.
In the 80s, they also had a Legend of Zelda fruit snack that was fucking bangarang.
Oh, that was the coolest thing ever when you got those fruit snacks, because they, like, you could never find them. Same with the cereal. Same with the cereal.
Yep.
You could never find them, but when you did, it was magical. Oh
yeah, so, I mean, there was a lot of, I mean, between product placement, having a good game every single generation, like
the
all
games
those kind of things.
Absolutely iconic. No arguments, because they have continually stuck through the generations. No argument. I'm just saying Link is a hard sell because he kind of doesn't have a personality.
That's fair, like as a character, like as a
but
developed
this is
character.
The 50 most iconic characters.
Iconic, not most developed. Iconic.
No, iconic characters though. You're thinking of one. I'm thinking of the next the one.
Oh my god. Okay. All right. But
anyways,
I digress.
We're not going to argue as much after this.
The next one, I'm okay. I'm indifferent, and it is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Now, there is no question that he is iconic. He's got to go fast. He's blue. He's a hedgehog.
He's had TV shows. He's had movies. He's had cereals and fruit snacks and all sorts of crap.
Everyone knows who Sonic the Hedgehog is. Almost as much as the next, I would say even more than two, but let's not go there. I'm just saying, Sonic, he's been a staple. Like, he's been a staple ever since the Sega Genesis, way back in the day. And so, it's hard not to have him as an iconic character, because he is.
And that's fair. I think that's fair. It's a personal thing, but I can appreciate it. Like, I personally don't care, but I can appreciate that he would be in that category.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I haven't even watched the movies. I don't want to watch the movies. I really don't.
It's not good, so you're not missing out.
Yeah. However, he is iconic. I mean, like there was two memes that came from Jeopardy, and one was from Donkey Kong and one was Sonic, and they were both
Sonic.
like everyone is just like, you're so dumb if you can't know who Sonic is. And I mean, it made it on Jeopardy. Like, it was a big deal. Like, this is just normal, common information.
Yeah, like, I think what you're saying is that he got into pop culture, general pop culture. He hit that status.
I definitely think he's way into there, so.
Okay, fair. Okay. So, Josh, you got the next one.
So, number 3, and this is kind of hard for me just because there's so many other characters in this, but it's Pikachu from Pokemon. Yeah. And granted, Pikachu is the most recognizable. He's the one that's been the most stable throughout the TV show and the games. He's always been there. And then, Pokemon Yellow, he was the only Pokemon that you had to have with you. So It's like, I mean, there's a lot to say about Pikachu in general, but I'm always going to be a Bulbasaur guy. I mean, Bulbasaur.
I mean, if you're comparing who would you want to hang out with and have in your Pokemon your Pokemon team, Bulbasaur for sure. But if you're talking about who literally took America by storm in the late 90s, it was Pikachu. Let's be honest.
And you know what? I'm going to say, who is voiced by Ryan Reynolds in a decent movie. Like, I was really surprised that movie was as good as it was.
I liked that one.
Detective Pikachu. I mean,
it was good.
It wasn't Detective Bulbasaur, even though Bulbasaur's in that were the fucking cutest. Oh my gosh. I had to go off on that. Sorry. But yeah, Pikachu, I mean, iconic in so many ways now. Like, it's Pikachu.
I do think that the next one we put in there because he is iconic to us much more than the bigger realm.
This is definitely a personal thing for us.
But that being said, he's also been the mascot for Xbox above and beyond probably any other character for every single generation. Absolutely. And that is number 2 is Master Chief.
And like there's granted, we probably put him way too high on this list. I could seriously make the argument that he is more around Cloud and Kratos, but still, like, he is iconic because he's a character that it's just, he's so powerful. He is that everyman that everyone kind of connects to as the gamer, but he's also, he has a voice, he has a personality, he has drives and ambitions, and he's solid as a rock.
Yeah.
And so Master Chief, that he definitely deserves to be on this list.
Yeah, I mean, we could possibly contest that he's a little high, but I think, what the hell? Leave him at 2.
I think this is our personal concession to ourselves. He probably shouldn't be this high, but we make him this high because it's our podcast. Deal with it.
That's right. Okay, Josh, right. You got number 1.
So the number 1, you should guess this by now. If you haven't guessed it, really, what are you doing on a gaming podcast? Go play some games, because you should know Mario from the Super Mario Brothers. Come on.
Damn straight.
Like, no other character has been with us, has been so iconic, been so in gaming itself. Like, he's been in so many games that have nothing to do with Mario.
Yeah.
Just, so Mario is that character. It was the first character that had a personality that people connected with way back in the day. Like, before this, like, there wasn't really a lot of characters that you connected with that had personality. And, you know, everyone that didn't live through the 80s and see all this stuff kind of start building, these whole game systems start to become a thing. Seriously, like, it was weird to have a character that was recognizable by your mom. Like, yeah, it's weird. Like, it was just weird then.
He was literally he's the face of gaming. He was the face of gaming for decades, and he
still is. Like,
there's
constant Mario games. There's constant Mario, like, appearances in other games, like Smash Brother. He's one of the main faces in Smash Brothers, a popular fighting game. Like, just really, when it comes down to it, he is just such a staple of gaming.
And also, he has one of the most diversified gaming portfolios of games that he's been in, because you have everything from beat 'em up games like Smash Brothers. You have him in strategy games like Super Mario RPG or Rabbids Kingdom, and then you have him in racing games. He helped corner the racing market. You have him in tennis, golf, all sorts of shit, and they just took this iconic character. Yeah.
And his character, like, that person who he is, and that character sold those games to a lot of people. Like, Smash Brothers is kind of a weird concept. You're beating up your heroes from different games together. Interesting concept. Not really makes a lot of sense as a company wide, but Mario is, that is awesome. And he has had TV shows. He's had a movie. I mean, yeah.
It wasn't a good movie, but it was a movie.
It was a great movie back then when we didn't know any better.
Yeah, and also, like, something to be said about them introducing him into different things that you wouldn't expect, like Mario Kart on Super Nintendo. Nobody was expecting that to be a thing, you know what I mean? And then Smash Brothers, the one that you brought up distinctively, is what's really interesting. Do you remember the commercials that came out for Smash Bros, where it's Happy Together, the song, and they're all skipping through, like, the field?
Yeah.
And then they start whomping on each other.
They just start beating the crap out of each other, and it's hilarious. Oh, go look up that commercial was hilarious.
Yeah, they did an amazing job really selling that idea across the board. I really feel like that's a part of it. But I mean, yeah, all things considered, just he definitely deserves to be number 1. It is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, I've tried and I've thought, like, Pac-Man would be the only other one that I can think of, but he wasn't really a character. He was just kind of a shape. So
yeah.
And really, like, he has not had the longevity at all.
Yeah.
And I can't think of any other earlier character. Plain simple.
Yeah, I think I think he deserves that top crown. So Mario wins. He's top one. That's the one that we're gonna go with. I think that one we obviously wouldn't argue one way or another.
If you would fight us,
yeah, let us know who you think's more iconic. I dare you. I think that one's a no-brainer.
We'll argue you because
yeah. Anyway, so that's our list. We had fun making this one, and I feel like this one was fun. It's the first one we've actually listed out. It's a lot of work, meaning it took us 10 minutes rather than 5 minutes. But it was nice that we both came in and went, yeah, a lot of those make sense.
And then I got to complain about placement and some yeah, but it's
nothing wrong with that. And hey, who knows? Maybe in the next few generations, there's going to be a new rise with new characters. I mean, who knows, man?
That's true, but I mean, none of them are going to have the longevity of some of these. Never.
That's true. Who knows? Maybe they'll retire Mario one day. I don't know.
As soon as he stops making the money hand over fist, maybe.
Right? I know. Yeah. It would take a lot to get them to be like, let's get rid of him. But still, who knows? Maybe.
I mean, they brought back Rob the Robot in a fighting game. Why not? Like, they're not going to let anyone go. Never.
Yeah. That is really true. I'll give you that.
All right.
Anyway, we hope you guys liked it. We are excited to be back. We've got a few more episodes that we're going to be trying to work on and everything. We hope to hear you guys reach out to us. If you have questions or comments or anything, reach out to us on geekreloading@gmail.com. If you have an idea of something that you want to hear us argue about or debate, then hey, send it our way. And besides that, we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Geek Reloading Podcast with Adam and Josh. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Have a question? Email us at geekreloading@gmail.com. Theme song titled Rocket by Kevin MacLeod. You can rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast service.